Hey guys, this is Nick with Blue Music and Movies, where we watch, listen to, and review music and movies, though mostly music lately. If you want to go listen to my last episode, I reviewed Anima by Tom York. And so this time I thought that I would listen to a semi recent album. I am going to listen to TRST. And if you don't know, TRST, that's the letters TR slash ST, is a sort of dark synth project by a guy named Robert Alphonse. I believe that his first album, which I absolutely loved, was done with, I think the girl from Electrolane? No, it was Alstra. Okay. I'm not a huge fan of her, but I really liked that first album, and I felt like the second one was different. Now, he's come out with a third album, and it's actually a double album. Only the first half has been released so far, and it's called The Destroyer. So we have The Destroyer Part 1. I've actually already listened to that, but I don't really remember much of it. I didn't review it or anything. I just sort of cursorily listened to it one time. But along with that, he just released a new single that I just saw today called Iris, so I'm also going to be listening to that and reviewing it. Now, TRST, the type of music that he creates is sort of I would say it's a combination of old school EBM, electric body music, and sort of synthwave throwback to the 80s Depeche Mode type thing. So that's what it is, and it's something that I really enjoy. At least I did on the first two albums. We're going to see what I think of The Destroyer Part 1 today. Now, before I go ahead and review it, I'm going to look and see what we think of just the album, what I can see. Now, what I see is that the cover is very interesting, and he's always had very interesting covers. I've seen the album cover for the first release, which was self-titled, by the way, TRST. I've seen the album cover for that first release in a lot of worst album covers or worst of the year album covers, and I disagree. I think it's really great. It's a picture of a guy in drag, but it looks like really bad, but I just think it's interesting. It has like tons of flash and washout. It just looks really cool to me. It's like lo-fi. I don't know. It's cool. But this third album cover looks like it's sort of, how would you describe that? It's like Baroque, or I don't know, like one of those really old school Renaissance paintings, like super dramatic and cool, but I believe it's a photograph, and it looks like a guy floating in space. He's got his sort of cloth, some sort of orange cloth around him covering his genitals, because it looks like he is naked except for that. And it looks like he's floating in space because you can see what looks like either stars or galaxies in the background. It really looks more like galaxies and suns rather than just stars. So I don't know. It looks really cool. I'm not sure what it is, because also around this guy, it looks like there's an effect that he's underneath water or has sun shining on him. So I don't really know exactly what it is. It looks really cool, especially with the title, The Destroyer. It's like, is this guy gonna come and destroy our planet? Do I need to be scared? I don't know. I guess I'll tell you after listening to the album. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna listen to that while I clean my house, actually, and probably take a few notes, and then I will get back to you with my thoughts on the album. So see you soon. Hello, guys. I am back. I didn't really get much cleaning done, just kind of sat down and listened to the album and wrote down what I thought. Did get a little bit done, and I kind of cleaned my floor. I decided to mop something up that I spilled, and I used bleach to mop it up. So now I feel like I'm suffocating and dying of bleach inhalation. So if I never make another podcast, you know what happened. I probably died. All right, let's dive right in. The first song of the album is called Colossal. This is an interesting intro to the album. It has a deep bass line and a sequenced bright synth with Robert's signature deep vocals. The chorus was sort of a wave of ethereal trance with different cool synth melodies. It has a club feel or a deep house feel. It really seemed pretty introspective, much more mellow than his previous albums, especially for a first track. So, not sure if that was a good idea to bring us into the album and to get us hooked. Usually first tracks are more upbeat, they're more dancey. I don't know. The chorus is very powerful and emotional compared to the verses. It was cool. Gone is another introspective song, so I'm already getting a feel for this album. It's going to be sort of introspective, low-key. It had an upbeat major key, despite being very introspective in both of the instrumentals and vocals. So both the instrumentals and vocals were very upbeat, major key, and the lyrics were about loss. Now, the third song keeps up the club feel. This one, titled Unbleach, is in a minor key reminiscent to the darker stuff on his first album. It has a dirty, deep, driving bass line. How's that for alliteration? Besides that, it's got some ethereal synths swirling around and an electro house beat. The chorus is very much a release. You get the build-up and then the release. With a transcendent vocal melody and warbling, high-pitched trance riffs. After the chorus is a fallback into the more depressive mood, before continuing with the second verse. There's a weird ending with a repetitive synth line that then fades into a bass buildup that turns once again into a releasing, transcendent chorus. I'm sort of sensing a theme for this album. Sorry, I just grabbed my bottle of water. I know that probably made a lot of noise. I'm dying of thirst right here. I'm talking and my mouth is dried to fuck. Okay. The next song, Bicep, is one that I have heard many, many times. He released it earlier before he did this album, a couple years earlier, so I've been listening to a lot. It's a great song. One that I absolutely love. It begins with a really cool, clear synth riff. How's that? I've never really heard people say synth riff, but it totally makes sense. You're doing a riff with a synth. I don't know. I'm not into music theory, I don't play any instruments. I do make music, but it's sort of like avant-garde noise music. It's not anything, I don't know how to play any instruments. So I don't know if synth riff is correct, but it makes sense to me. Anyway, it begins with a synth riff that has a weird feedback sort of backing, behind that, along with the same note in fast sequence for the bass line. There are light shuffling snares. The synth is relegated to background smears as the gravelly, whispered singing comes in over the almost hypnotic bass line. The chorus comes in with a bang, starting with a pounding drum. The whispered vocals turn into a very electric and catchy sung melody. Afterwards, it becomes almost spoken word. The whole thing is very visceral, and it's hard not to dance. I loved this song before I listened to it just now, and I still think it's probably one of the best songs on the album, and that Robert has made, period. The breakdown after the second chorus involves a build-up with high-pitched female backing vocals, and then turns into a new version of the chorus that is more minimal. It then comes back around for another serving with the regular chorus. Grouch, the next song, Grouch. Yeah. Grouch, sort of like the, what's that, Elmo Street? Fuck, what's that show called? Not Elmo Street. Dude, what the fuck? I literally can't remember. That's so weird. With Big Bird and... I mean, I guess it's not that weird. It's not like... Whatever, dude. Anyways, Sesame Street. There we are. Grouch starts off with a very mechanical 80s synth pop sound. So that's pretty different, compared to the more 2000s club vibe that we were given on the first few songs. This is compounded by very plastic drums. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but on a lot of those 80 pop songs, they have that real plastic drum sound. Anyway, this song has a very much 80s radio pop filtered through surrealism feeling that reminds me of Joyland, Robert's second album. Really cool. I'm concluding that I like this album a lot more than I did on the first listen, so maybe I wasn't paying enough attention the first time. There's also a really interesting breakdown that I'm not going to go in depth about, but it's really cool, so you should totally go listen to the song. The sixth song... Oh, wait, are we already on the sixth? That's crazy. Wow. The sixth song, Poorly Coward, starts off even more mechanical. This is more of a return to the 2000s house vibe, however. It's a very mellow song, but then it turns aggressive after the first chorus. It's almost post-industrial, or maybe definitely post-industrial, grime feel. Not sure. It has this weird altered vocal or synth line that sounds like modern rap production flourish that just keeps this song in surreal, distorted radio music territory. A very interesting song and very unexpected. The next song, Control Me, is jarring by then suddenly throwing us headfirst into a sugary, Katy Perry-like electropop sound. It's very airy and upbeat. This sounds more like modern radio pop than anything I've heard so far in here, though there are a few out-of-place industrial production additions. It's nonetheless very interesting and fun. The last song is Wake With. So you know, it's a very short album, only 8 tracks. Once again, very ethereal, very trance, sort of mellow with a shuffling house beat. Once again, modern radio electric pop filtered through surrealism. And I really feel like that's a concept that that Robert, aka TRST, does a lot. He likes to take radio pop songs, whether they be 80s or in this case 2000s, and he likes to filter them through a dark and surreal vibe. Now, in conclusion, this album was a lot more downbeat, not depressing, but a lot more, I guess, mellow. You know, a lot more calm than his previous albums. Joyland was kind of calm. His first album was pretty aggressive. Let me go ahead and go through them. The first album was sort of an aggressive synthwave sound. So it had that 80s synth pop throwback, but was very aggressive, disturbing, and post-industrial. Now, the next album that he did was a lot more transcendent, a lot more ethereal. Like, this album used a lot of trance lines, sort of got into house territory or club, rave territory. But it was still a lot different than this album in many ways. I would say that this album was more low-key, while that one was more... I guess it tried to be more ethereal or transcendent, while this one sort of seemed a little more reeled in, I want to say. I'm not sure how to say that. It was kept in rein, I guess. I don't know. It definitely has a darker vibe than the second album, but I would not say as dark as the first. Now, I'm very much looking forward to The Destroyer Part 2, so can't wait. I guess... I don't know, are there going to be 8 more songs? I don't know. I didn't really particularly like a lot of the singles that I heard when I listened to them as they were released, but listening to them in the context of this album made everything a lot better. I think that this is a great album. It flows together wonderfully. The sequence, everything. It has a mood. It's a definite mood, and that mood is sort of one of... Not to sound typical, but a lot of people say this about Burial and his album Untrue, which is that it sounds like going home after a rave and you're in rainy London, it's dark out, you're a little depressed because the rave is over, the drugs are wearing off, and you're sitting in McDonald's eating and you're like, well, fuck, But it's very mellow, it really has that sort of vibe. It's really good. I really like it. Listening to the album as a whole is a really cool experience. You get a lot of different things. He took things from many different types of music. He took things from 80s synth pop, dance, 2000s club, house, modern electropop, and he filtered all of this through, and of course weirder types of music like post-industrial, and you know how we have all of the modern deconstructed club songs like Sophie, other artists like that. He sort of did that, but in a more low-key vibe. He only did that on a few songs, but he definitely showed us that he has a very wide music vocabulary. I think it was a really cool album. It was an expansion on his sound. He went in a new direction, something that he doesn't usually do, and I thought it was a really good album. I really liked it, and now that I've listened to that album, I'm going to go ahead and listen to the new single that was just recently released. I'm not sure exactly when it was released, but it was released pretty recently. I just saw it today. It's called Iris, and I am not sure if this is a sneak peek into The Destroyer Part 2. So I'm going to go ahead and look that up for you right now. Like I said, I never look anything up before coming to you. So you can see that as either I'm unprepared and a shitty music reviewer, or that I'm including you guys in the whole process. I prefer to think of it in that way, but that's just me trying to be optimistic. Yes, Iris it looks like a single that previews his second release, which is The Destroyer Part 2. We have an article here. TRST announces The Destroyer 2 LP shares Iris track. Oh, I don't know if it said that. What? Okay, well, announces new tour dates. The Destroyer 2 LP out on November 1st on Grouch via house arrest. Grouch? Is that a label? I don't know. That's really cool. Apparently, it's going to be out on November 1st. That's kind of a long while. So is it... Wow. I thought it was going to be sooner than that for some reason. I don't know. Because it's sort of like a double album, you know? But then again, I guess it's not. It's not really... I was sort of thinking it was in the same vein as Marina's recent album. If you guys have heard that. The lady that released Electra Heart, you know? Prima donna girl. I can't sing. I'm very sorry for that. Anyways, all I ever wanted was the world. Anyways, I can't help. Listen, I'm gay. I can't help singing that song. So anyways, Marina has recently released a album, and it was a 2-part album, but she released the first half before the second half. They were supposed to be released together, and then she released the first one beforehand, and then the second one not long after. Which I'm not sure if I've actually listened to the whole thing. I might have listened to the whole thing at once or something. I don't know. It was Love plus Fear. Love was the first half. Fear was the second half. It was okay. A lot of people didn't like it, but I think I liked it more than most. I don't know what I expect from Marina. It's just that it seems like in the past she had more of like a meta take, or like a I know I'm getting off topic, but it seems like in the past that Marina like sort of looked at things from a different viewpoint. And then this most recent album, you know, like the second album, Prima Donna, a lot of people didn't like it because they said, you know, she's buying into this whole mainstream thing. And her first album was very political. It was very social, you know, social talking points. It was very literate, I guess. I don't know. And then it seems like when she released the second album that she was buying into the whole pop star thing. But I just think that I don't know why people thought that, because it was very obvious that Electra Heart was a satirical take on the modern pop thing, sort of like Lady Gaga did with The Fame, which again, a lot of fans don't even realize. But it's sort of funny because after that, Lady Gaga really did do the whole pop star thing, and she just like threw away even pretending that it was a satirical take on it. Eventually, she just stopped even pretending, and she just completely bought into it. At least that's my viewpoint. And I kind of think that that's what Marina did, because this, you know, not with the one after that. It was really good. I wasn't a huge fan. It was very slow, and I've never listened to it when I was in the mood for more mellow and downbeat radio pop, so maybe I should try that right now, although it's a very different thing than this album. But that last album was just totally radio pop, and it just sounded like a collection of radio tracks, and it didn't really sound like a cohesive album. I don't know. I'm not reviewing that album here. I don't know why I'm saying that. On this webpage that I went to, there are some reviews, so I'm going to look through these here, maybe see if I see anything interesting. The jarring angles and visuals, mixed with vivid color, are meant to match the haunting vocals that sit beautifully over an upbeat sound. Oh, that was on the music video. That's cool. The pulsing, snaking colossal that manages to be ethereal and a banger. Yeah, this is very ethereal, very ethereal. The mature The Destroyer 1 offers less consistently urgent fat danceability than previous TRST releases, but is equally passionate and alluring. Definitely agree. Out magazine said Grouch bridges 80s drama and sound with a contemporary dream pop sensibility, courtesy of TRST's Robert Alphonse. I guess that's how you say it. TRST's new song Unbleached is industrial rave perfection. That was the fader. The earlier ones I said were by All Music, Exclaim, Nowness, and Brooklyn Vegan. Don't know who that is. Anyway, I think Iris is probably a preview of a song that is going to be on his next album. But that website didn't actually confirm it, so I'm going to go to another one here and make sure that that's true for y'all. Yes. The website artvoice.com says TRST has announced his new LP, The Destroyer 2, and shared a new track titled Iris. The album is the follow-up to the Destroyer 1 LP, which was released in April. The new LP will be out 11/1 on Grouch via house arrest. 11/1? Oh, November 1st. I was like, what, bitch? I don't know why I thought this was the year. I'm going crazy. When talking about the track, Robert Alphonse says Iris is a very important moment on the record. Swallowing weight of shame, growth of fritillaries. I really don't know what that means. Growth of fritillaries and an ode to an eternal muse. It has been 5 years since TRST released 2014's Joyland. In an industry that prioritizes constant momentum, taking time to slow down and focus on the creative process could pose a risk of losing audiences. But for his third album, Robert Alphonse challenged himself to remain patient and careful, dedicated to both healing himself and ensuring that he was delivering his most cohesive work. Now, 2019 is poised to be the most momentous year yet, and he's just starting to see the excitement unfurl. I don't know that that's true, because I feel like in the past it was a lot easier to release songs on a record label much more quickly. Think about The Who or the Beatles. They released albums like that. You know, it was like 2 or 3 a year, every year. People don't do that anymore. They take about 2 years in between, so I don't know. I mean, he did wait kind of a long time. That's true. There's more to this review or interview. If you want to read it, it looks interesting. I might go ahead and read it, but not right now. Not on camera / microphone / podcast. So I'm going to go ahead and listen to Iris, and then I'll get back to you with my thoughts on that single and what I think the new album's going to be like. You know, is it a continuation of this album, or is it a slightly different sound? Maybe it's more upbeat. I don't know. I'm excited. How about you guys? Let me know in the comments section below. But in all seriousness, I am about to go, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, y'all, I am back for the second time. I think that's the first time that I've said y'all on this podcast, but hey, I am from the South. I know I don't have a Southern accent, but just throwing that out there, I'm from the South. Anyway, I just listened to Iris, and I realized that I forgot to talk to y'all about the album art, so here I am gonna do that. Yeah, okay. Anyways, so the album art it's kind of like, it looks like one of those ink blot things, I don't know, or like a couple on top of one another. I don't know. It's really cool. I like the album art. Can't exactly tell what it is. It's sort of abstract. It looks like photo negatives or something like that. Like, well, actually, you know what? It looks more like some ink marbling technique or ink marbling attempts on paper. They look signed and then on top of a manila folder, and then the whole picture was inverted and given a purple tint. That's what it looks like to me. It looks kind of cool, though. I like it. Looks very different from the Destroyer Part 1. So is this going to be the cover of the Destroyer Part 2? I actually doubt it. I think it's going to be something new. So, alrighty. Iris starts off with a mechanical bass, but ethereal synths before turning into a minimal verse with almost 2 bass lines. There are no drums for a bit, but then an almost hip-hop beat comes in. Once again, it's a very introspective song, very mellow and heavenly at the same time. It's modern radio pop filtered through Robert's personal oddball vision. There's some female backings here, you know, a typical song structure with a breakdown that's essentially just a quiet synth moment before the bombastic chorus comes back in. Catchy vocal melodies. That's really all I have to say about the song. It really seemed pretty much more of the same. Sorry, I was just getting some more water. I drank the rest of my water bottle. Anyways, it's more of pretty much the same of what's on the Destroyer Part 1. So I wouldn't expect anything too different. I'm not sure if there's going to be a slightly different atmosphere or anything different or what. I really have no idea. You know, this song is not boring. It was a good song, but it definitely sounds like it could have been lifted right off of the Destroyer Part 1. So maybe the Destroyer Part 2 is going to be just a continuation of this sound, you know? Who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. I'm waiting. November 1st. Mark your calendars. The Destroyer Part 2 by TRST comes out. I'm very excited. I am. And you can go ahead and read some more of that interview. Maybe I'll read some. Is this podcast too long? Is it too short? Let me know. I'm going to have a drink of water. Here's some more of the article on artvoice.com. In April, TRST released Part 1 of The Destroyer, a double album in 2 parts, and embarked on a North American European tour in the spring. I didn't know he did that. I also didn't know he released it in April. I don't think I listened to it until June or May. Any doubts regarding the project's reach were quickly relieved after a sold-out tour, including shows in New York, LA, London, Berlin, 2 nights in Paris, and Mexico City, among others. The level of fan enthusiasm and the intensity of their love at shows was much greater than I expected, and that really surprised and moved me. Alphonse says, now gearing up for a second U.S. international tour in the fall in anticipation of the release of The Destroyer Part 2 in November. Alphonse is excited to share his slow growth in full bloom, playing bigger venues, attracting new listeners, showing his evolving sound. I think touring the first part of this record revived the thrill in the whole process of sharing music and touring, because of the love and response from the fans who buy tickets to come spend an evening with us. TRST is a shape-shifting project with Robert Alphonse as the core. It began as a duo with Maya Postepsky in Toronto. I guess that would be the girl from Austra. I think I'm saying that right. Austra? I don't know. I listened to like maybe one album by them. I guess maybe I should get more into them since I really love TRST. But I think it's pretty different. So, don't quote me on that though. Together, they released the critically acclaimed TRST in 2012, that's self-titled. Following her departure from the group to focus on her solo project, Princess Century, Alphonse reconfigured TRST as a solo effort and released the effervescent Joyland in 2014, shortly after relocating to Los Angeles, where he currently resides. 5 years later, Postepsky rejoins Alphonse to co-write and co-produce on the closing track, Slow Burn. I guess that's closing track from Part 2, as well as 5 tracks from Part 1. Oh, I didn't know she did anything on them. On the creative team for this last album is Lars Stalford, Health, and Alice Glass, who co-produced and mixed Enduring Chill, Core, and Shame. Additional production and mixing on Iris, Darling, Destroyer, and The Stain was provided by Damian Taylor of The Prodigy and Bjork. I guess he produced those, bringing an energetic polish to the Destroyer's smoldering dynamism. While TRST is known for their signature darkwave synth music that often conjures visuals of sinister, subterranean after hours in the minds of reviewers, it is their expansive nuance, versatility, and vulnerability that keeps fans connected to the band. Each album has taken a risk. TRST, dark queer, kinky, intimate electronic. Joyland, bright, poppy, ecstatic dance music. The Destroyer, more industrial and more ambient than ever before. I agree with all of those statements about all of those albums. I need another drink of water. I don't know. I'm literally dying today, y'all. I feel like I'm just like dying of thirst or something. I don't know what's wrong with me. I didn't smoke weed. I don't smoke weed. So don't tell me that I just smoked too much weed, because I don't. I don't like weed. But yeah, my mouth is dry today. Am I dying? Let me know. In each case, TRST is not afraid to break the mold preceding it. to venture beyond expectations and take listeners on an exciting sonic adventure. This is actually a really well-written review. I think I might start keeping up with this webpage. This is well-written. I like it. I like reading it. This exhilarating unpredictability is present in tracks like The Gargantuan Menace Colossal and Frenetic Chain Reactor Unbleached on Part 1 of The Destroyer, which Alphonse describes as intense and promiscuous. Exclaim magazine calls Part 1 slick, understated, and more spacious than their counterparts on previous releases. Now, on the cusp of releasing Part 2, due November 1st, 2019, Alphonse reflects on his greatest creative risk to date. For a project that has established itself with a gritty, pulsing sound, Part 2 will show the delicate underbelly of the beast. Really? I thought it was kind of intimate and introspective to begin with. It was gritty and pulsing, that's definitely true, but I thought it was pretty open and introspective to begin with. It felt vulnerable and introspective to me. That's weird. Anyway, as well as unearthing more earnest and glistening pop songs than we have previously heard. The temporal shift in Part 2 is an entrancing and tender companion to Part 1's searing industrial drive. Did they get to listen to this album? I'm jealous if they already got to listen to it just to review it. Hey, you guys need to make me popular so that I will get to listen to albums before they're released. Hello? Don't you want that for me? If you want that for me, you should listen to my podcasts and like it on YouTube and wherever else, because it's not on any platforms right now. But maybe it will be later when you're listening to this, because that is a goal. What was I going to say? Oh, you know that a band actually recently contacted me on Instagram where I post some of my reviews. I post some written reviews, like some short written reviews on my Instagram that I don't review on my podcast, and then I promote my podcast on there. So if you guys want to listen to it, look me up on Instagram, Google Solutions. Shameless plug. At any rate, a band called, I think it was Bear Shoe or Horseshoe, I should look that up. They contacted me and were like, hey dude, you should listen to this is a PR pack, listen to our recent single. Yeah, it's called Bear Shoe. Listen to our recent single and review it. It was called Ouch Wisdom Teeth. And it was really cool. It was actually a pretty good song, so y'all should listen to that if you haven't. But they sent it to me before it was released, although I think it was released yesterday. They sent it to me before it was released so that I could review it and get them a little bit of exposure, because I don't have tons of followers. But I thought that was pretty cool that a band actually contacted me before they released a single to have me listen to it and review it, because I don't have tons of followers. Let's see where I was on this article. I think I took so many more risks sonically and emotionally on Part 2 of this record, for the reason that this release has much more importance to me. I've spent much of the past 5 years writing and reworking these songs to get them to the state they are in, Alphonse says. The strength of Alphonse's songwriting is how fluidly he interweaves multifaceted pop polarities. The hard-edged rippling bass tethered to soaring transcendent melody in Iris reminds us that in celebration there are times of mourning. There is gravitas to every bliss. These feelings can, and do, coexist in an infinite tangle of longing. Iris was the first song written for this record, directly, after all of the touring for the second record finished, but it also really captures and sums up most of the recurring themes that are present in this album. So, did he tour for the first album and then go back and record the second album after touring? It kind of sounds like that. So maybe The Destroyer Part 2 will be a little different. I don't know. That's kind of weird. I don't know. For The Destroyer, the central theme that Alphonse explores is the deconstruction of shame, expressed in soundscapes of raging mechanisms to simpering quiet and lyrically introspective. I think the biggest reason it took 5 years to write and rework so much material is that I finally had to confront these feelings of shame that I had somehow been able to push aside for so many years, which explains why the album is so tumultuous, Alphonse shares. Okay, so he went back and reworked some songs that he previously had either written or recorded. That's cool. Maybe that's why it has a different vibe. On Destroyer, the title track of the album, Alphonse sings, "I'm the destroyer of everyone," which shows the paradox of feeling in a the paradox of feeling in a path of destruction while being in the most creatively productive part of his career. The wistful melody launches off of the bombastic rhythm to burst and cascade like the embers of fireworks falling into the night. In a time of impending automation, TRST's music encapsulates the erratic conflicts of the human soul. This emotional complexity is what keeps their discography relevant over many years, and their fans closely engaged. Alphonse delivers a hypnotic journey, timeless nostalgia, to a resident place of feeling that bears returning. TRST will release The Destroyer Part 2 on November 1st, 2019, coinciding with a North American and European tour in the fall. So that's cool. That was a really cool album and gave us some interesting insight into Alphonse's writing process and everything that went into the making of The Destroyer Part 1 and Part 2. So that was really interesting, and I'm glad that I included it in this podcast at the last minute. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you liked my review. Hope you got something out of it, and if you didn't listen to the album yet, you should go listen to it. Or if you have listened to the album, go listen to it again with some of these things that I said and that the article said in mind, because it might give you a new perspective, which I always find interesting. I love reading reviews while listening to an album or before or after listening to an album. I think it's really cool to give yourself some more information and some differing viewpoints on what the album is about, what it's like, what your takeaway should be, things like that. You know, if you enjoyed this podcast, thumbs it up if you're on YouTube, or, you know, whatever else, subscribe, blah, blah. Go to my Instagram, Google Solutions, and subscribe. I post different reviews, sometimes picture of my dog. I have a husky, so I'm sure that might entice some people to my Instagram. And yeah, so I will see you guys later. Next time I find an interesting album to review, leave me suggestions. What do you want me to listen to? What do you want me to review? Let me know.